this computer. So welcome everyone. I'm Susanna Kittredge. I'm a member of the Jamaica Pond Poets. We sponsor this reading series. I'm going to hand things over to Alan in a minute, but I'm just going to go over to a couple ground rules first. I have muted everybody, and we do ask that you hold your comments until the end of the reading. If you want to mute in between readers to applaud, that's fine. Unmute in between readers, that's fine. We also, a lot of us find the chat sort of distracting, so if you don't mind holding off on your chats until the end of the reading as well. I think that's everything, so go ahead and take it away, Alan.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Welcome. Thank you, all of you, for coming tonight to our reading. Es un placer veros a todos, amigos, familia, a todos. Bienvenidos. My name is Alan Smith Soto, and I'm a member of the Jamaica Pond Poets. The Jamaica Pond Poets is the sponsor for this reading series, Chapter and Verse, which is mostly poetry, but sometimes also prose, fiction and nonfiction, a series that has been ongoing for 25 years plus now, under the leadership of Dorothy Derryfield and Sandy Story. In other times, which will come again, we met at the Loring Greenough house, which is right across the street from my house, actually, a beautiful 18th century mansion built in mid-18th century, and that stayed in the hands of the Greenough family until the mid-20s, 1920s, when they had to sell it. It was going to be bought by developers and demolished, and it was saved by a group of enterprising Jamaica Plain women who had started a club called the Tuesday Club. They bought the house and saved it, and it is now here, a presence, a cultural memory and cultural present also. It's a venue for wonderful activities, very varied activities, among them our reading series. We buy books from our readers, and these books are donated to the Boston Public Library, our local branch, the Jamaica Plain branch of the Boston Public Library. You can go there and see a bookcase, a veritable bookcase with all the books of our readers. Such a wonderful place, that bookcase, and the library. Tonight, we have a pretty special evening of poetry. We have two Spanish language poets and their translators. We also have a wonderful poet born and raised in Boston, Alexis, who will read one of her own translations as well. So English language poetry, Spanish language poetry. Truly, we're making Zoom work tonight. Our first reader is Alexis Ivy. Alexis is a 2018 recipient of the Massachusetts Cultural Council Fellowship in Poetry. She is the author of Romance with Small-Time Crooks, Blaze Vox Books, 2013, and Taking the Homeless Census, Saturnalia Books, 2020, which won the 2018 Saturnalia Editors Prize. A Boston native, her poems have been displayed in City Hall and featured by Mass Poetry aboard the Red Line subway, where I have seen them. Her poems have recently appeared in Saranac Review, Poet Laureate, and Sugar House Review. She works as an advocate for the homeless in Cambridge and teaches in the Poems Works community. Tonight, she will also read her translation of one poem written by a Spanish poet, and as I understand, she will have a guest speaker read that Spanish poem. Welcome, Alexis.
Thank you, Alan. It's really great to be here, and thank you, Chapter and Verse, for having me here tonight. So I'm going to begin reading from my collection, Taking the Homeless Census. As for me, I like the bus, its particular iridescence. I like the potholes that make me hold tight the pole. I want to touch a stranger's touch, the stranger who made that pole warm. Give me cracked vinyl seats, unwiped walls giving up to the spreadsheet roots. Even the commuter rail to Rockport, the seaside stops, the boxy cities, platforms with their unpushy no smoking signs. Fast, faster, loud, louder. And I'm all in with junkyard bicycle factory dust, the good graffiti and bad graffiti, the basic color of the world. My next poem is Taking the Homeless Census. The corner of the laundromat is occupied by the ex-con with an exhausting past. He uses missing socks as mittens, trade socks for cigarettes, homeless, sitting on a milk crate, homeless, facial hair unkempt, homeless, publicly collecting cans, homeless, boozing at the duck pond, homeless, asking for the time, homeless. Teenagers homeless under bridges, living on benches or beside the heat vents in the library. Chronic homeless who find refuge in the holes of stairwells. The habitually homeless who have lived 4 episodes of homeless in the past 2 years. The girl who stocks the shelves at 7-Eleven tells me she lives on her friends' couches. The man I buy a muffin for at Dunkin' Donuts Sunday mornings goes south to be homeless in Rhode Island all winter. In public alleyway 118, 3 vets have built a room out of furniture left on the street by undergraduates. A woman curled up in a Macy's storefront leads on the 6 garbage bags of her life. On any given night in January at the Shattuck shelter, someone will clean up, show up, ask for a toothbrush, dryness, 5 packets of sugar, an outlet, sign their name on the sign-in so that they might be given a bed. As for the rest of us, uncounted. My next poem is in the form of a guzzle. Home. I mean, shouldn't someone be back home at the end of the day? Where people go is home. Home should be a place to stay. The corner calls the street home. Home for cowboys is campfire. For weather, sky's home. For the circus, it's big top. For fruit, Rhine's home. Sweaters call the cedar trunk home. Tell myself, come home, Alexis. And so I head home. The pinup girl I want to be is a poster hanging in my closet, is all oops, my top is falling off, holding a rose, pink, practically with her fingertips, petals babying her nose. Even I can smell that arousal as she embraces her right breast. Chin up, she's revving for a downtown night. Her other hand plays with the telephone cord, tempting with moves unmoved. Is she answering that call or hanging up? I can choose any misconception I want. She's on her back, one knee bent and the other crossed over, high heel dangling. She's pinned here, all satin in a classy, broad way, poised in forever, forever. Radical surgery. Let me show you the scar waist deep down my chest, deep enough to deserve a get well card. I was just being born, to be cut open and stitched the way a sparrow knots its beak in sandwich crust. My body turning blue like it was winter at the beginning of July. Still I dress for weather, in any Sylvia Plath sky. The moon has nothing to be sad about. I rely on that moon, my courage as deep-wooded as a star's. If I point to my heart like my hand's a gun, would you love me? My next poem is in the form of a villanelle, elegy. Autumn is the season of slow reside, shredding ivy green turned brown. Leaves absolve the earth before they die. Leaves well kept, blown, layering the sky, stepped on, so settled in sky sound. Autumn is the season of slow reside. Sun shows late for the fallen, shines stubborn, a street lamp in that polis of clouds. Leaves absolve the earth before they die. Leaves stripped and torn as they pine for frost, first snow, blood on the ground. Autumn is the season of slow reside. Leaf smoke catches in the eye, the kind of worldly pain all birches bear. How leaves absolve the earth. After they die, the sky will weather and rain less light. December will also die. How round autumn is, the season of slow reside. Leaves absolve the earth before they die. I'm gonna now read some of my newer poems of my manuscript in progress. No title yet, but hopefully soon. And I'm gonna start with another formal poem in the form of a pantoum. How My Heart Gets Said. I stop for the view on the horizon. It's true, or partly true. Every place is a vista I keep going to. It's true, or partly true. I can't tell how far I've gone, and I keep going too. No one's on this path. I can't tell how far I've gone through these cedars, maples. No one's on this path. No openings, no cut-throughs through these cedars, maples. Sometimes the only way is the only way. No openings, no cut-throughs. I can never go back the way I came. Sometimes the only way is the only way. I stop for the view, the horizon I can never go back to. The way I came, every place is a vista. This next poem is in the form of a palindrome. Another way to die of thirst. He sleeps on the salt piles under the highway. He can't get on unemployment. State police put up a trespass notice on his mattress. Can't even sleep on salt piles under an overpass. He can't afford black clothing to keep his waiting job. Please buy him black clothing. He must keep his job because he can't go on unemployment. He can't just sign a lease. Money cannot buy him a place. A place money cannot buy. A lease he can't just sign. Unemployment can't go on because his job he must keep. Please buy him black clothing to keep his waiting job. Black clothing he can't afford. Under an overpass on salt piles, can't even sleep. Notice on his mattress, a trespass, state police put up. Unemployment he can't get on. Under the highway, the salt piles he sleeps on. This next poem is in the form of a duplex. It's a new form. When the poker game is at my place. I sometimes deal out an extra hand without a player, a dead hand. It sits there face down, the dead hand everyone usually forgets. While we bet, fold, usually forget that we already bet. Listen to the Rolling Stones play through. Sometimes the dead hand wins when it plays. When that happens, all the chips are left in the pot. The next round wins all the chips left in. The next win just gets even bigger. The dead hand makes my odds even bigger, even more about death than I meant to. I should know my life exactly, I mean to, but sometimes I deal out that extra hand. On the high road to Chimayo. As I drive, a ballad plays on the radio of a tall tale pioneer who read himself like he was a fiction. There's suffering in every pine. On the needled land Kit Carson took, plopped himself where land was green enough. America was a stinging whip who stomped a people down for a blanket, a mule, a couple of long-haired brides. He shaped the western borders. If a buffalo strayed too far, so did his fences. I am on a mission to leave my heart for the desperado behind, take my favorite piece of turquoise and leave it here, pull over at the Pueblo Reservation to walk the 3 bridges, have a pure view of the Sangre de Cristo. Everything is built of dust in a dried up riverbed. All the plants that breathe here are native. I ask sage, cedar, lavender, cottonwood, if it's okay to breathe here. I breathe here. Two truths and a lie, a guessing game. Truth, using a pencil makes me write slower. Truth, my life goes faster in ink. Lie, I tell my poems everything. Truth, I can choose somewhere. Truth, I have a place. Lie, I would feel stuck if I had a place. Truth, I am at the ocean. Truth, I look at the ocean only when the ocean's in front of me. Lie, I may not need the ocean. Truth, I've loved. Truth, love is a courageous act. Lie, I love more than I fear. Truth, saying you makes every poem a love poem. Truth, I took you out of my poem so they'd have nothing to do with love. Lie, I want nothing to do with you. Truth, I'm good at loving broken people. Truth, a grain of it in every promise. Lie, it's easier to love broken people. This next poem is in the form of a triolet. Differentiation. I cry in this poem. There's a difference between weep, sob, and cry. Weeping is silent. I weep on trains alone. I cry in this poem. Sobbing is so loud. Sob only in private. When I write the poem where I caught you in a lie, I cry. In this poem, there's a difference between weep, sob, and cry. Six attempts to record my out-of-office message at the shelter. Version 1. Sorry, I cannot take your call right now. If you need immediate assistance, contact someone essential. I am essential, but unavailable. I am not boots on the ground enough to help you. Version 2. I'm not here right now. If you could see me, you'd think I look so young, so healthy, but my cardiologist told me otherwise. Version 3. My heart is not as good as the Tin Man's heart in The Wizard of Oz. At least his gift was pristine and mechanically perfect. I'm more of a disaster when I hear the train to the workplace I can't go to anymore. Version 4. I feel like I am not a fighter for the first time. Am I a hider? My persona shot. I'm not who I thought, so please leave a message after the tone. Version 5. Due to not being present and in person at this critical time, I want to thank you in advance for your forgiveness. Version 6. After the beep, please tell me everything. Like you, I wear my damaged heart on my sleeve. So my next poem, as Alan was saying, will be a translation of Rafael Juarez, and it will be read first in its original form by my partner, Santos Irizarry.
Soneto de la oscuridad. Siempre quiero llegar como en el cine. Llegaban antes los protagonistas y mis conspiraciones nazistas, haciendo el final bueno porque vine. Yo soy él y ella, y soy los malos, el director y los espectadores. Mi alma es la sala oscura y los actores. Son pálidas pasiones como halos. en la pantalla de mi fantasía con una voz que engaña el sentimiento. Fuera de cine corre otro ahogamento. Yo solo soy el niño que salía cuando el domingo ya no era verdad. Hacía la verdadera oscuridad.
Thank you. The Darkness, a sonnet. I always want to get to the part when the hero becomes the hero, like in the movies. I'm what makes the ending so great, make it fit into my own personal plots. I am him and her, and I am all the villains, the director and the audience. My soul is the dark room, and the actors, their pale passion, halos on the screen of my fantasy, with voice full of feeling. Outside the movie is another drama. I am the boy who left, entering a Sunday no longer true. The truth was in the darkness. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Alexis. You know, I was just thinking when you were reading the statement by a character called Shklovsky, who said that poetry and art really should make reality strange, so that we should come upon it as if for the first time. I think your wonderful poetry actually makes reality real and familiar. And I just loved it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The second, well, I will be the second reader tonight, and I have the great joy of introducing Katherine Hanulla Hill, who generously agreed to translate my poetry, with whose translations I am absolutely thrilled. Katherine is a writer, translator, and editor. Born and raised in Seattle, where she lives now, she has lived in cities across the United States, as well as in Spain and France. After working in Spain as a language assistant, she spent 10 years in the US working with children in foster care. She has published short stories in anthologies and a journal, and has been a contributing writer and editor for a book and magazine designer. She attended the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid and the Université Stendhal de Grenoble, and graduated from Boston University with a double major in Hispanic language and literature and French language and literature. I'm going to read 4 or 5 poems in English, unpublished poems, and then I will read some poems from my book that was published in Madrid in July, called Hasta que no haya luna, as Katherine translated the title into English, Till the Moon is No More. So some English language poems. Matter of fact. This frozen afternoon, I saw a swan. All right, it's true. They often come in January to our pond and glide on liquid patches, undisturbed. But not this one. It had left its element and ran on ice, on clumsy naked legs, flapping its wings into ungainly flight, craning its neck ahead, no question for the gods, into an accidental sky. Close. I lived a time beside the coffee trees. My mother's hand touched my face when fever came. My brother's boots shrank to fit my feet, and horses swung their meditative tails late in the evening to shake the star awake. I walked each morning on a country road to a small school in a cleared wood. One room was for learning dreams, and in the other, an orange peel was borne away by ants. As I walked back, the crows tattered the sky above the breezy hush. Sometimes I ran as I got close to home. Neighbors. Was that the place where mourning doves had gone? That in years past had used my window ledge to build their spring and so renew their pledge, twig by twig, until the nest was done? One February, they did not return. I waited for their call that never came and missed their constancy, their mild refrain, the way they helped each other, taking turns. But then, after the seasons made their round, I heard their song again, with no dove near. Only today their secret was revealed when our tree shed the last leaf of its boughs. Their nest, I thought, I'd know it anywhere. And if it's not their nest, what do I care? Untitled. Driven away, he went to Ozu's house, a modest two-story structure in a rather outlying Tokyo neighborhood, and was offered sake and rice flavored with tea. Ozu said he was holding out and would make another silent movie. He noticed, tacked on the wall, simply, without a frame, a photo of Joan Crawford. When Ozu saw him looking at it, he smiled, ever so fleetingly, as he gracefully, yet in a friendly manner, refilled his cup with sake. Tell me now, he said, why you have come. It was spring, and the orange bend of the carp entangled my thoughts among a deep, dark green water. There was, however, no time remaining. I must quickly walk out into the street, I said, sipping the very small cup of sake, desiring no more. Painting by numbers. 1. Light gray figure at the pond's edge. 2, etc. And now I will read from Hasta que no haya luna, and I'll have the great joy of listening, we all will, to Katherine's wonderful translations. I'll read this poem in Spanish, poem by poem. Somnia. No puedo dormir, por eso iré recogiendo el abecedario que he visto en el camino antes de que los pájaros lo coman. Quiero ir borrando el retorno para permanecer poco a poco en este bosque.
Insomnia. I can't sleep. That's why I'll gather the letters I've seen along the way before the birds eat them. I want to erase the way back, to remain little by little in this forest.
Recoger. De vez en cuando en la Biblia de mi madre hallo su subrayado, una palabra que dejó para recoger luego, y soy yo el que la recoge. Por ejemplo, en los proverbios. Al doblar el fino papel, el verde trébol de 4 hojas, sano y bello, donde ella lo puso para marcar la página de su esperanza.
Gather. Every so often, in the Bible that belonged to my mother, I discover an underlined word that she left to gather later, and I'm the one who gathers. For example, in Proverbs, as I turn the thin paper, the green 4-leaf clover, unbroken and beautiful, where she put it to mark the page of her hope.
En alguna playa británica leo en el periódico: las ballenas arenaron su enorme peso en 100 suicidios. Han salido del mar, han deshondado su eterno rumbo familiar. Las autoridades temen que sus gritos de agonía hagan estallar el esternón de una copa. Se nos han cansado las ballenas y no les basta lágrimas ni océanos. Ya no les basta todo el mar.
On some British beach, I read in the newspaper, the whales stranded their huge weight in 100 suicides. They've come out of the sea. They've unfathomed their eternal, familiar course. Authorities fear that their death cries will shatter a glass's sternum. The whales have tired of us, and tears aren't enough for them, nor oceans. The sea is no longer enough for them.
Estuve en el mundo de los sueños y me dieron naranjas azules. El sol violeta seducía, seducía, y la sangre de Dios era verde.
I was in the dream world, and they gave me blue oranges, the violet sun seducing, seducing, and the blood of God was green.
Fuego fuerte en la chimenea. Es como tener una tigra que le da de mamar a tus sueños y que seguramente no te morderá de repente, lo que seguramente te haría perder el control de tu, digamos, sangre.
Fierce fire in the hearth. It's like having a tigress who breastfeeds your dreams and who probably won't bite you suddenly, which would probably make you lose control of your, let's say, blood.
Caía un trozo de pan y mi madre decía: hijo, recógelo y dale un besito. Y yo agachaba el conocimiento de mi mano al suelo y llevaba el pan al trigo de mis labios.
A bit of bread fell, and my mother said, "Son, pick it up and give it a kiss." And I bent the familiarity of my hand against the ground, and I brought the bread to the wheat of my lips.
El sembrador de Van Gogh. Bajo un limón que puede ser un sol, bajo la rama en flor, el sembrador avanza por los surcos violeta. La mano derecha se abre y lanza la semilla en abanico, mientras agarra con la otra, casi con un gesto de defensa, la bolsa llena de sílabas abiertas.
Van Gogh's sower. Beneath a lemon that could be a sun, beneath a flowering branch, the sower advances along the violet furrows. His right hand opens and tosses an arc of seeds, while with the other he grips, almost in a protective gesture, the bag full of open syllables.
Efemérides. Efemérides. Había caminado en el desierto y llegó a una puerta sin paredes a la izquierda ni a la derecha. Conociendo ya el resultado, empuñó el pomo.
Occurrence. He had walked in the desert and arrived at a door without walls to the left nor to the right. Already knowing the result, he grasped the doorknob.
Soy la última vieja de esta casa. Los muchachos del colegio tiran piedras a las ventanas, pero no a la mía. ¿Qué sentido tiene que salga de mi lugar sin tener los pies en vilo? Aún me asomo al cielo de la tarde debajo de las golondrinas. Resistiré las peticiones y reclamaciones de dueños rodeados de moscas. Soy más dura de lo que se imagina. Si lees esta carta, es que he muerto en este mismo sitio.
I am the last old woman in this house. The school children throw rocks at the windows, but not mine. What sense does it make to leave this place without my feet up? I still look at the sky in the afternoons under the swallows. I'll resist the complaints and demands from landlords surrounded by flies. I'm tougher than they imagine. If you're reading this letter, it's because I've died in this very spot.
En la librería de libros viejos y nuevos, cada estante ostenta un letrerito. Me acerco a uno y leo poesía usada.
In the bookstore, with books both old and new, each shelf has a small sign. I approach one and read, used poetry.
Vamos a saltar 24 de enero, Catarina, ¿vale? Saltamos ese.
Vale.
Hasta que no haya luna. Florecerá en sus días justicia y muchedumbre de paz, hasta que no haya luna. Salmo 72, versículo 7. Llegó al pueblo la costumbre del pan a duras penas, palabras que sobraban de la mano, las asociadas nubes, durante la tierra, durante el hombre y la mujer, cuyas sillas estaban cerca de la mesa, la calle perezosa, la otra deprisa, tendidas en la cuerda, una camisa, solicitud, rencor, juegos de cama, y lejos el huerto, la montaña, debajo de la tarde pensaba, hasta que no haya luna. Se deslizó en pedazos el frío, noche abajo, sin más río que el ruido de las ramas. Dijo para sí, hasta que no haya luna.
Till the moon is no more. In his days, let the righteous flourish and peace abound, till the moon is no more. Psalm 72, verse 7. He came to the town, the customary bread, barely, words left over from his hands, the partnering clouds during the earth, during the man and the woman, whose chairs were close to the table, the lazy street, the other hurried, hanging on the line, a shirt, solicitude, rancor, bed sheets playing, and far away, the garden, the mountain, beneath the afternoon, he thought, till the moon is no more, the cold sliding apart further down the night with no more river than the sound of branches. He said to himself, till the moon is no more.
Gracias. Gracias, Señor, por el día de hoy. Gracias por la paz y la poesía, por el pan ordinario de mi mesa y el ruido con su ratón pequeño, por el viento redondo que duerme en la cuchara, por la caja gris de la guitarra que, sin embargo, contiene una guitarra.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord, for today. Thank you for peace and for poetry, for my table's ordinary bread and the noise with its small mouse, for the round wind that sleeps in the spoon, for the gray guitar case that nevertheless holds a guitar.
Thank you, Katherine. Thank you so much. Our last reader is Graciela Vaquero. She sent me, as we all do, her brief bio. And her brief bio was a poem, which I translated. So this is really her self-portrait. I'm going to read my translation. Woman, poet, wonder turner, brave, afraid, variety theater artist, mother, spare time cleaner, immigrant, her people's dirty blood carrier, juggler, guardian of all growth, reader who writes, writer who raises cats, oceanic thinker, enthusiastic lover, defender of laziness, abandoned, abandoner, earth scratcher, edge walker, vertigo gatherer, resistance daughter. I felt like I was riding a bronco and I was trying to translate this. And it's all true. Her published books, among her many books, Contacts, Crónicas de Olvido, Oficio de Frontera, Con, Historia de la Fragilidad, Chronique d'Oubli, translation into the French, Crónicas de Olvido, History of Fragility, Pintura sobre Agua, Painting on Water, forthcoming Sobre el Amor y Otros Animales, on Love and Other Animals. I will read my translations of her poetry. We'll go poem by poem. And I just want to say, knowing how difficult it is to translate, I just want to say to Katherine that I was amazed by her work from personal experience. Thanks again. So, Graciela, tú lees y yo te traduzco. Graciela.
Sí, ahora estoy. Me había olvidado el micrófono. Bueno, primero gracias por invitarme a este espacio, a estas nuevas geografías del encuentro y del amor y de la poesía que hace estos planetas tan bellos. Gracias por todo. Bueno, el primero es un poema muy chiquitito que dice: cada instante de la vida es tan preciado que ya no quiero mentir.
These are all one-line verses, one-word lines, I mean. Each instant of life is so precious that I no longer want to lie.
Labor de trapecista. Cuidar el material propicio al equilibrio. La tensión de los hilos, la carne relajada, el peso exacto pisando cada herida. Labor de trapecista. El cuerpo sumergido en la profundidad del aire. Los pies prensiles, entregados al ciego aleteo, avanzando sobre palabras que muerden. Sobre la tela zarzal de todas las ausencias, voy con el pecho al aire, respirándome, la espalda recta, el vientre silente, sabiduría del cuerpo en su caída. Labor de trapecista, esta forma de desandar el amor, amando.
Trapeze artists' work. Take care of materials that help you get your balance. The cords, tension, the flesh relaxed. Exact weight stepping on each wound. Trapeze artists' work. Submerged body in the depths of air. Grasping feet, engaged with blind wing beats. Advancing upon words that bite. Over the thorn cloth of all absences, I go with uncovered breast, breathing me in, back straight, silent core, body's wisdom in its fall. Trapeze artists' work, this way of unwalking love, loving.
Toma el camino más estrecho y no pises la hierba. Para que la travesía sea favorable, debes de contar los guijarros que brillan con la luna y caer rindiéndote en la memoria del agua. Antes de partir, has doblado las sábanas donde descansan escenas infantiles y te has tragado las llaves del susto en el armario. Cierra ahora la puerta. Toca el silencio sin levantar polvareda y recuerda a cada hijo que no dejaste nacer.
Take the narrowest road and don't step on the grass. For a favorable crossing, you should count the moonlit pebbles and fall surrendering in a memory of water. Before starting, you've folded the sheets where childhood scenes are resting, and you've swallowed the keys of fear in the closet. Close the door now. Touch silence without raising dust, and remember each child you didn't let be born.
Desciende la ladera. El camino andado se bifurca, pero solo es visible si alguien canta, y no hay más que desorientarse para que las bandadas de pájaros te acompañen siempre hacia el mar con sus gargantas secretas. No es fácil caminar con los pies desnudos. No es fácil llevarse encima. Te dolerá la espalda, te dolerá el amor de los padres enterrados, los jardines de invierno, la lluvia sosegada nublando la memoria, y tendrás que ir curando, apretando allí, justo donde el olvido ha inventado oscuras transparencias.
Go down the hillside. The road already walked forks, but is only visible if someone sings. And all you have to do is lose your way for the flock of birds to accompany you, always towards the sea with its secret gullies. It's not easy to walk barefoot. It's not easy to carry your own self. Your back will hurt. The love of your buried parents will hurt. Winter gardens, quiet rain, fogging memory. And you'll have to go around healing, applying pressure there, exactly where forgetting invented dark transparencies.
Cargo con dos cabezas, la cabeza de reír y la que duele, la que hace cálculos y sopas para el hambre de los míos, la que mira hacia atrás envuelta en su salitre. Pesan, me pesan las cabezas. A veces llevo una entre los brazos, como a un niño chico la llevo, mientras la otra golpea los silencios del mundo y brama la locura de tanto desatino. Lo he intentado todo, pero pesan y no soportan un viaje de maletas. Así que de llevarlas sobre mí, mis trapecios de adelante se hacen cargo, meten cuña, resisten y sostienen el movimiento bípedo de su dudosa inocencia. Cansada, a veces las engaño y consigo que se pierdan de vista. Sonrío al aliviarme, pero sus ojos hambrientos orbitan otra vez hacia el reencuentro y mi cuerpo se alinea dócilmente a sus astros. Mis dos cabezas, la que imagina y la que acuna muertos, la que teje esperanza, la que escupe, la que se viste de noche para el amor carnívoro, la que siembra una luz de Dios, la que sepulta, la que enciende en la tarde hogueras entre amigos, la que amansa gatos, la que huye, la violenta en su firme indiferencia, la que se interna en el mar hasta el milagro. Es difícil, lo sé, y me hago cargo. Envuelvo a mis cabezas como panes preñados, con un lienzo húmedo, un sudario, creando un breve nido de costumbres para que aprendan a nadar sobre la calma. Mis cabezas hidra, bailándome el amor del cuerpo que sostiene, bailando con sus miembros fantasma, lejos de mí, hartas de mí, huidizas compañeras que despliegan el centro de mis días, el peligro y la ternura de pensarse.
I carry two heads, the head that laughs and the one that hurts, the one that stirs numbers and soups for my dear ones' hunger, the one that looks back, wrapped up in its salts. They're heavy, my heads are heavy. At times I carry one in my arms, like a small child I carry it, while the other beats against the world's silences and follies. Madness howls. I've tried everything, but they're heavy and can't take a trip with suitcases, so I must carry them on me. My atlas back muscles do their job, insert wedges, resist and maintain the biped motion of their doubtful innocence. I breathe. Sometimes, tired, I fool them and manage to lose sight of them and smile relieved, but their hungry eyes turn again towards me and my body aligns obediently with their stars. My two heads, the one that imagines and the one that cradles the dead, the one that weaves hope and the one that spits, the one dressed in night for carnivorous love, the one that sows a godlight, the one that buries, the one that in the evening makes bonfires among friends, the one that takes cats in, the one that flees from the violent one in its firm indifference, the one that enters the sea up to the miracle. It's hard, I know, I accept that. I wrap my heads like pregnant loaves of bread with a moist cloth, a shroud, building a brief nest of habits so they might learn to swim on the calm. My hydra heads, dancing me the love of the body they hold, dancing like ghost limbs, far from me, fed up with me, fleeting companions who spread out the center of my days, the danger and tenderness of thoughts of oneself.
Bebe del frío y reanuda el viaje. Las brújulas se asentarán en las frentes de los desaparecidos y algo girará sobre la piel marcando fronteras huidizas. Cruza por el centro de la carne. Las autopistas tienen allí sus nudos. La velocidad escupe pájaros furiosos y hay que desatar el tiempo para poder respirar.
Sip the cold and renew the voyage. Bubbles will settle on the foreheads of those who disappeared, and something will spin on the skin, indicating fleeting borders, cross through the center of flesh. The highways have their knots there. Speed spits furious birds, and it is necessary to untie time so as to breathe.
Ella me dice, has de estar a bien con tu tarea, has de estar a bien con tu tarea, me dice y lo repite insistentemente porque no me malogre. Sé que nada le importa lo que escribo, pero no me deja de existir. A veces enloquezco. Para aliviarme, me enseñó a enhebrar agujas, a reconocer el sabor en el olor de las comidas y hacer la cama como quien ordena la guarida de un planeta.
She tells me one should be at ease with one's task and repeats it incessantly so that I not fail myself. I know she has no interest in what I write, but she won't let me leave it. Sometimes I go crazy. To soothe me, she taught me how to thread needles, to know how foods taste by their smell, and to make the bed as one who puts in order a planet's lair.
A veces regresas. Sobre la mesa de la cocina hay algo caliente y una ventana amplia para ver la lluvia. Es hora de deshacer los nudos y desplegar tu historia. En la escena, las ollas humeantes del caldo tempranero, la verdura limpia sobre el mármol y tu abuela cortándole el cuello a la gallina. Puedes sentir la música infantil bajando hasta la huerta, mientras los perros saltan su alegría doméstica y la tierra empuja todo crecimiento. Es hora de deshacer los nudos. Un murmullo de gaviotas presagia un mar de fondo. Respiras suavemente. Todo está en orden en la casa de la lluvia.
Sometimes you come back. On the table there is something hot, and a large window so you can see the rain. It's time to undo the knots and spread out your story. In the scene, the smoking pots of an early broth, cleaned vegetables on the marble, and your grandmother cutting a chicken's throat. You can sense the childish music go down to the vegetable garden while the dogs jump their domestic joy and the earth pushes all growth. It's time to undo the knots. A murmur of seagulls foreshadows a sea beyond. You breathe softly. All is in order in the house of rain.
Sé que tuve una cuna de invierno y una piel de cordero para aislarme de mis propios sobrinos. Mis primeros llantos cruzaron la bendición de las aguas de marzo en una casa templada por el calor de las bestias. Debajo de la madera de la alcoba habitaba la placidez de las cuadras, las vacas rumiando la humedad invernal, ofreciendo sus ubres a mi hambre sin dientes. En la pared sur trepaba la glicina preparando los pámpanos del olor primero. Soy hija de un muerto prematuro y de una madre niña. Sobrevivo en un sueño plagado de fantasmas y he aprendido a reír después de las catástrofes. Crecí salvaje, sabiendo que enseñar los dientes no me ayudaría. Aprendí a cantar y así fui amaestrándome. Hambrienta de pertenencia, ofrecí los pliegues de mi sexo a cada hombre que prometió quererme. Crecí salvaje y tuve que aprender a bramar hacia adentro y acariciarme el pecho hasta hacerme llorar.
Querida Gra,
¿Qué?
estoy conmovido. Mira, ¿te importa si esta vez no leemos El amor inunda por el tiempo?
Me parece muy bien.
Vale.
Me alegra. Y yo inclusive quitaría otro más.
El siguiente, el
No,
11 y
el
el
siguiente no.
¿Cuál?
El corre, corre. El siguiente no, el siguiente.
Y ahora corre, corre, vale.
Sí, sí.
Muy bien.
Quitamos esos dos, ¿vale?
Vale, y así corremos.
Vale.
No estamos corriendo, desde luego. Here we go. Sorry, we had to do some house cleaning,
No.
housekeeping. I know I had a winter crib and a lambskin to keep me from my own urine. My first cries crossed marches, watery blessing, in a house warmed by the heat of animals. Below the bedroom floorboards lived the peace of the stables, the cows chewing winter's moistness, offering their udders to my toothless hunger. The wisteria climbed on the south wall, preparing the first fragrance of its vines. I am the daughter of an early dying father and a girl mother. I survive in a dream plagued by ghosts and have learned to laugh after a catastrophe. I grew up wild, knowing that showing my teeth would do no good. I learned to sing and so tamed myself. Hungry for belonging, I offered the folds of my sex to each man who promised to love me. I grew up wild and had to learn to howl inwards and caress my breast until I cried. Sometimes you come back. ¿Sigue o no sigue, hermosa?
Seguimos.
Ah, vale. Bueno, sigue tú ahora. I'm
¿Quieres que
sorry.
leamos un par de ellos más o ya o para
No,
ya?
adelante, adelante.
Venga. Iremos a morir en hordas.
Bien.
¿Vale?
Vale.
Venga. Iremos a morir en hordas, como los grandes mamíferos del mar. Los cuerpos mezclados, apenas sin violencia, estremecidos por las respiraciones y el leve corazón del exterminio, escupiendo un silencio denso que ya no cura, varados para siempre en las arenas de nuestra melancolía.
We will go to die in hordes like great sea mammals, mixing bodies with hardly any violence, thrilled by breathing in and destruction's slight heart, spitting a dense silence that no longer heals, stranded forever in the sands of our melancholy.
Y el último, ¿vale?
Vale.
Para curarme, riego la mala hierba con terquedad milenaria. Podo las ramas muertas de la madreselva y hago coronas de verde nuevo para los niños. Para curarme, me canso el cuerpo. Remuevo la tierra con manos violentas y hundo semillas. Muchas gracias, gentillo. Tira para adelante.
In order to heal myself, I water the weeds with 1,000-year-old stubbornness. I prune the dead branches of the honeysuckle and make crowns of new green for the children. In order to heal myself, I tire my body. I turn over the earth with violent hands and bury seeds.
Alan, qué bonito suenan mis palabras en inglés. Qué
Tus palabras me vuelven loco. Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to our poets and our wonderful translator. We have some time now for announcements that I think Sandy will make, or if anybody has announcements or some comments or questions, I think we can open up now and unmute and have a chat in the real sense of the word.